If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The old adage favoured by gaming company executives far and wide. As long as a franchise makes money, why bother changing anything? In the world of business, this makes sense, but you could also call it a death blow for creativity. The game franchises we look at today do fall into the category of safe, but don't look at it as too much of a criticism. There are many games from these series that are sublime, mostly because they stick to a formula that has been known to work in the past. But today we're asking, could they have done more? The video game medium is one that can only progress by breaking convention, trying something that's never been done before. Most of these series have got to where they are by innovating, but the problem is, that's where it ended. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 game franchises that refuse to modernise. Number 10. Assassin's Creed. Ubisoft franchises stick to the script so tightly it's like they've had a run-in with flex tape. Ain't no new ideas getting through that. Well, you may be thinking, but Ben, Assassin's Creed has done loads of new things. There have been games set in ancient Egypt and Victorian London. To that I say, these aren't innovations, these are purely superficial. Speaking from a gameplay perspective, the Assassin's Creed series has barely changed since the first game in 2007, and 2018's Odyssey marked the 11th game in 11 years. How could they possibly have time to make any meaningful changes? Black Flag, along with the recent combo of Origins and Odyssey, all flirted with the idea of gameplay innovation, but it was still the usual shtick of parkour, sneaky stabs, and map icons with a different backdrop. Sure, the boats were good, but like a child eating too many cookies, Ubi just couldn't help themselves. And now somebody has to scrub the boats out of the carpets. The only reason Assassin's Creed is so far down the list is that Valhalla could be great and change everything, making us look like twits in the process. However, if it is more of the same, consider this an honorary number 1. Number 9. Nintendo Originals. Calm down everyone, lower the pitchforks and douse the fire flowers. This is actually quite positive. Let's be real, Nintendo today exists mainly to feed nostalgia, and considering their popularity with new generations, they'll still exist in the future to feed nostalgia, a sort of intergenerational nostalgiaception, if you will. It truly is a marketer's wet dream. Even though Nintendo do just rehash their old ideas in a shiny new package, it'll be near impossible to argue against Nintendo games being the most polished in the industry today. They have, admittedly, had quite a while to perfect their method though, which is part of the problem. Yes, we know Breath of the Wild was a bold new direction, but what about the others? The way Mario controls in his 3D outings hasn't changed since the Nintendo 64. Luigi's Mansion 3 is near enough the same game as the original, and don't get me started on... No, we'll get onto that later. This, of course, doesn't mean they aren't really good games themselves, but rather just the same really good game as the one that came before. It'd be nice for Nintendo to rediscover that innovative spark from bygone days and try to push the industry forward once more. They've still got the magic with hardware, but their games, not so much. Number 8. Tropico. Think about it. No, really, think about Tropico. Unless you're a massive fan of city builder games, chances are you haven't thought about Tropico in quite a while. It's not like they're bad games, quite the contrary. But considering they've changed very little since the first installment in 2001, it's understandable if the latest Tropico game hasn't been on your radar. As a refresher, the Tropico games are about building a thriving colony on a Caribbean island. Playing as El Presidente, you have to juggle keeping your population happy while also keeping international superpowers at bay. Superpowers as in countries like the USA, not Superman's heat vision. The series hasn't really changed much over the years, apart from a few quality of life tweaks. Now, you may be thinking, where can this series go? Well, just about anywhere, really. I know the name Tropico lends itself to a more, tropical setting, but call it something like Tropico in Space and have it be about a moon base, or Tropico in the Cotswolds, where you build a sprawling tourist town while appeasing the local retirees. Admittedly, those ideas may be rubbish, but they'd at least be different. What I'm saying is Tropico has an excellent foundation that could be more than just another Tropico game. Number 7. Halo. The genre of first-person shooters is a bit tired nowadays. Games where the sole premise is that you're a dude shooter that's shooting dudes while trying not to be a shot dude have flooded the market. I couldn't tell you how many Call of Duties there are now, and I often forget that Tom Clancy used to be known as an author. Halo was a shining light for the genre, both a sublime multiplayer and single-player experience in its early outings. The series has now gone the way of that zombie in the well from The Walking Dead, in that it's bloated, oversaturated, and blocking the opportunity for something good due to its cumbersome frame. The original revolutionized the first-person shooter back in 2001, and its sequel popularized the online multiplayer shooter on consoles. Then the third installment put all the pieces together into one of the greatest games of all time. However, after Halo 3, the innovation stopped. Apart from the surprisingly good Halo Wars, the series took a turn into the tedious, especially with Halo 4, a game that stuck to the script so tightly that it was like a nervous call center employee on their first day. That's me, I'm talking about me. With Halo Infinite looking to cash in on nostalgia, it doesn't seem like we're going to get much new going forward, but then again, why would they when it still makes so much money? Number 6. Lego games. You know what you're getting when a new Lego game comes out, and for a product centered around creativity, that's pretty bad form. LEGO Star Wars was tremendous when it was released in 2005, a coming together of two universally loved brands in a single polished game with a simple art style that could stand the test of time. Then, LEGO Star Wars 2 came out, a coming together of two universally loved brands in a single polished game with a simple art style that could stand the test of time. Then, LEGO Indiana Jones came out, a coming together of two Alright, I think you get the point. The LEGO games keep getting made in the exact same way, but they are slowly getting worse. This is a prime example of the law of diminishing returns. There was LEGO Worlds, a Minecraft-esque game about building LEGO in an open world, but for a concept that seems like such a winner, the overall reception was a resounding meh. A shame, really. So instead, we're just going to get more of the same simple formula now and probably for the rest of time. Number 5. Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto has a special kind of repetition. Not only is the gameplay nigh on identical every time, but the setting also loops, alternating between Liberty City and Los Santos. Admittedly, there was also Vice City, but I'm sure a return there won't be too far away. When you look closely, no aspect of Grand Theft Auto has really changed since the first 3D entry in 2001. It is technically getting better with its shiny graphics and the like, though the game mechanics and mission structure remain basically the same. While the early games felt different from other open-world titles because they were ahead of their time, you have to ask, does GTA 5 feel different today because it's cutting edge, or because it's now outdated? True, there isn't anyone making a classic GTA killer anymore, but that might be because they've moved on. Like many on this list, we're not denying the GTA games are still tremendous fun, but the painfully heavy character animations, often irritating wanted system, and repetitive travel from A to B mission structure are a relic of a bygone era. Obviously, we'd never wish the series to go away. In fact, none of the entries on this list should, but a few steps towards modern life wouldn't go amiss either. But wait, we lied! Something has changed in modern GTA. There are microtransactions now. Hooray! Number 4. Gears of War. Like many famous franchises, Gears of War's initial swell in popularity came from a push towards originality. While not the first game to feature predominantly cover-based combat, that was Namco's Kill Switch, Marcus et al. Brought it to the mainstream. As with all major fads, the bandwagon was set in motion as every game publisher and their mums jumped on board. When the first Gears of War released in 2006, it was in direct competition to Resistance: Fall of Man. They were both rather similar in premise, yet completely different in playstyle, and ultimately Gears won the battle. While Resistance was well reviewed and had the cult following, Gears of War had the majority and remains a Microsoft powerhouse to this day. They've got a habit of milking their popular franchises, don't they? Apart from a few extra game modes, gameplay hasn't changed over the years. Considering that cover-based shooters seem to be on their way out, especially after the oversaturation in the early 2010s, it seems strange that Gears of War would stay its course, but we all know it will. Number 3. Dynasty Warriors. Okay, credit where it's due, they tried to modernise with the terrible Dynasty Warriors 9, but if copying Ubisoft games from a decade ago is their idea of what modernise means, then I think they might need to get the dictionary back out. Open world, animal hunting, watchtowers that unveil the map, camps full of enemies. No, I'm not describing Far Cry, this is actually Dynasty Warriors 9, a game from 2018. By mimicking an aging trend, it shows just how far behind the times the series is. You would have been hard pushed to find a lazier series than Dynasty Warriors even before its 9th main installment, repeatedly rehashing the exact same experience with each passing release. The series did what many long-standing franchises do and quickly became technologically obsolete. For all the criticism of Nintendo, Hyrule Warriors, a crossover between Legend of Zelda and Dynasty Warriors, was a new and interesting step for Zelda fans, yet realistically, it was just more of the same for Dynasty Warriors. Number 2. Fallout/Elder Scrolls. Bethesda definitely needs to modernise at this point. Unfortunately, the last time they tried, they completely buggered it up and released Fallout 76. Fans of the studio's beloved RPGs have been asking for a more polished experience for years. Oblivion, Fallout 3 and New Vegas all ran on the Gamebryo engine, and even though they were fairly broken and full of bugs, nobody minded because the games themselves were great. Bethesda then took the foundations of the Gamebryo engine and built the Creation engine for Skyrim and Fallout 4. Even though they were fairly broken and full of bugs, nobody minded because the games themselves... Wait, I'm repeating myself, aren't I? After fans asked for a game on a less broken engine, Bethesda gave us Fallout 76, the most spectacularly broken game of them all. Because what was Bethesda's attempt at modernization? A live service multiplayer game with microtransactions and at one point, a monthly subscription. For shame, Todd Howard. Bethesda seem doomed to repeat themselves. As a developer at least, they usually make good games to go with all the bugs rather than messy, terrible ones like... Nope. I'm not saying that. This video is going to receive enough complaints without me singling out... ... You decide in the comments. Would a new game engine help now? Doubtful, it's not like they have a good track record of it, and using new tech on a big project adds countless other problems. Right now, I'm just hoping the Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't have single-player loot boxes. Oh no, I said that too loud, Todd might have heard. Number 1. Pokémon. Yes, Pokémon is a fun and delightful game that continues to charm fans and children, mainly children, but seriously, you can't deny its place on this list. Outside of an evolving roster of characters and very minor graphical upgrades, Pokémon hasn't really changed since its inception. The gameplay mechanics and the general premise are always the same, and not only are we being sold the same game time and time again, but we're also being sold the same game twice at the same time. It's madness. While graphics aren't a measure of a game's quality, the latest in the series, Sword and Shield, is arguably more regressive than progressive. The issue is there's only a small minority that think there's a problem. A new player isn't bothered if it's the same as the one that came before, and the obsessive fan would wish to see somebody impaled on a pool cue if they were to suggest a change. I've got my body armor on standby. Let's put this into perspective so we can all be friends. If you like how it is, that's okay. If you'd prefer something more progressive from a series you enjoy, that's okay too. None of it matters, and games that provide more of the same good thing can be just as fun as those that push the boundaries. Yeah? Okay? Put down the knife. And there we have it. If you disagree with any of the inclusions on this list, why not have a constructive and pleasant discussion about it in the comments below? I'm sure you'll behave yourselves. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon? Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.